Welcome to Serve, Supply, Strengthen, a podcast developed to help churches reach their community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. We provide tools and resources through our various conversations to be able to help the local church meet that need. We are a ministry of the Upper Ohio Valley Baptist Association, and we welcome you as we dive into today's topic. God bless you, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Serve, Supply, Strengthen. My name is Chuck Morrow, and we're really glad you've joined us here today. As you know, over the last several weeks, we've been looking at the topic of missions. How can the local church be involved in local missions, statewide missions, international missions, and all of those things in between? So today, we have a special guest with us. His name is Pastor Aaron Sligar. He is from Living River Chapel in Sutton, West Virginia. And if you want to know where that is, that's down near Flatwoods, West Virginia. Aaron also serves as our president of the West Virginia Convention of Southern Baptists the last couple of years. So, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Chuck. I always find it a great opportunity when we get to talk to other parts of the state about missions and what we're doing and what our partners have been doing, and then what we're doing also as a state in the state convention. And you know, we love it when the associations are active because if we didn't have the combined efforts of the churches and the associations working together to reach out, then I don't think we could reach the population of West Virginia for Christ with the gospel.
I completely agree. That's, if you know me, if you know our association where we are, we have a phrase, better together. We truly believe we are better together. We come together to be on mission. And with this podcast actually comes out of our mission and vision, serve, supply, and strengthen. We seek to serve, supply, and strengthen local churches and cooperative fulfillment of the Great Commission. And so with that, we want to be able to do that with this podcast, to be able to help local churches reach their communities and equip them to reach them with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So thanks for being on. I really appreciate you being on today. And today we're talking to Aaron. We're spending this time with Aaron today so that we can be able to take another look and another perspective on local missions and how we can be involved with local missions. So with Aaron and his time with our state convention, he's served the last couple of years as our president of the West Virginia Convention of Southern Baptist. And I'm just a little tongue-tied today, if you can't tell. But with that, I just want to pass my condolences, Aaron. I know you wanted to see your beloved 49ers to be in the Super Bowl last night, but that didn't happen. And NFC lost the Super Bowl as well.
I'm happy that the Eagles lost. My AFC team is the Chiefs, and so we're happy that the Chiefs won. And I don't care what anybody says about the refs. Y'all can whine all you want. The guy holding even admitted he was holding, and he shouldn't have done it. So the Chiefs deserved what they did. I just wish I would have got to see a defense play last night. There was no defense in the game at all. So it was just offense. They just kept moving the ball, and it was ridiculous that way because I like the defense better than the offense usually.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I watched the first part, and then my wife and I had a few things we were working on last night, and so I just had it on my phone. I was peeking over at it from time to time. I was like, oh, hey, the Chiefs won. Yeah. I'm sure Mark Clifton was rejoicing wherever Mark Clifton was last night. Those of you who don't know who Mark Clifton is, he leads church replanting for the Southern Baptist Convention, working with NAB. And he's a huge Chiefs fan. But anyways, let's talk about this. Local missions. I know you've been involved in local missions, plus you've been the recipient of missions as well, those coming to your church to help with things. And so, just right off the bat here, why don't we just take a look at what is your view when it comes to local missions?
Well, Chuck, you know a little bit about me, but my background, I was a mission brat. My dad was a mission pastor in Nevada back when it was home mission board. And he had 3 churches that were on his circuit. So missions is very important to who I am and what we do. And when God called my dad to plant a church here in this area, I tried to resist it, but I didn't want to help out because I knew what it took. But kind of piggybacking on what Danny said the other day about, planting and stuff, that's stage one in a lot of thoughts, because, churches, that's one of your strong mission projects, is planting churches. I don't think that there's enough churches. I know that sounds weird when you drive down the streets of West Virginia, that there's churches on almost every corner, but people aren't in them. People aren't being reached. And so our first thought is we have to look at what we have in our context and realize what God's called us to reach. I believe that God calls us to where people need him.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And I think missions is our demonstration of that, of us having a firm belief that God called us to our area. But missions locally is can be tough. It takes something out of you, and takes commitment, takes drive. We've had several interns come through our church that thought that they were called and weeded out of the program because they didn't realize the commitment to missions. But if we go to the very basics of missions, we start with when you become a believer, then you become a missionary. It's no option. And the Bible tells us that we have a higher calling, and our higher calling is that of reaching people for the kingdom. And that's how we demonstrate love towards each other. The greatest commandment is love one another, and it's like, how do we show love if we don't share the gospel and reach people for the kingdom? So that is what formulates missions, is the ultimate goal. But how that looks is totally different.
Right.
It will look different in the Upper Ohio area than it will in Sutton. It takes on a different picture. I was reading a article today about Wheeling and about a Permane Brothers thing that was going to take place, but so many people spoke out against it that they decided to scrap it. And so it was, and if you want to read up on it, I'm not going to tell you what it was. You all have to research it, but it wasn't a proper agenda to be in our communities. But we have to know our context. And so your context is a little bit different than ours, but we all have the basic same bottom principle is, as a believer, our job is to reach people for the kingdom. That is the basis of all missions, whether it's local missions or greater into the state missions or national missions or international missions. We all have that same job. For years, I believed that if I just gave my money, I was supporting missions. I was doing my job. And God has really taught me a lot about that misguided effort. Yes, the money is important. Don't stop giving to mission projects. But it doesn't replace and doesn't take care of your responsibility. And it doesn't matter your age either.
Right.
The missions is, so we are a mission church. We started 2007 as a church plant. We became a commission church in 2014. And we reach people that don't go to the normal church. So
Right.
we are a mission focused church. We reach out to the ones that just kind of, this sounds horrible when I say it, but we're the misguided or misfit misfit kids, the island of misfit toys, basically. and our folks understand that concept. These are the people we're called to. And these are the people that need Jesus just as much as the banker down the street needs Jesus. But that is our niche, and we found our niche of who we reach. And through that, we've seen people come to know Christ. We've seen people baptized. We've seen families that weren't in church getting into church, and now not just being in church, but surrendering to calls of missions and such for later in life. And they're preparing now to go out they're doing their education right now, or they're serving in the local church to gain the experience and understanding so they can serve in the mission field. But mission projects itself is not necessarily just us going out and knocking on a door and reaching someone with the gospel. We have great partnerships, not just from other states, but also within our state. We have one of our greatest partnerships was with Open Door Baptist Church, right there in Upper Ohio. Pastor Larry Garrison, wonderful church that has a heart for missions that have taught me many things about a heart for missions. Larry and I became friends because of the state convention, building relationships together. That's how you and I became friends, Chuck, is through serving together through some tough times and developing tough friendships. And that's part of missions but there's two sides of that mission coin. There's the church that comes and helps another church, but there's also the church that receives the help. I grew up as a mission kid, and then later in life, we went to larger churches that we would go on mission projects. And so I had to learn how to receive mission help. And that was a big deal for me. And so through churches like Open Door, it's taught me a lot, but that doesn't replace our going either. Our church has gone to North Carolina, to 2 different churches there, helped with Upward Basketball, helped with VBS and other churches. We went to Georgia and did a VBS. And so we went to another church in North Carolina and sorted out Sunday school material that they sent overseas for English as a second language classes and stuff like that. So just because you're a small church doesn't mean you can't do as well.
Well, and that's the thing I know we were talking about last week and alluded to a little bit more as well in the previous episode. It doesn't matter what size your church is to when you think about missions. One thing I'd like to hear about is, in your community, you're not in a community that has thousands and thousands of people, right? West Virginia doesn't have a lot of communities with multiple thousands of people. We are small, rural. The town that I live in right now, I moved from Moundsville to Middleburn, West Virginia. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it's an hour to the largest towns in all directions. And there's like 466 people that live here. And so when you think about rural missions, rural ministry, the majority of our towns are rural. And I would say the majority of the towns and not larger towns, but the majority of towns are less than 5,000, and a lot of them under 1,000. So what do you do in your local community? How do you reach folks on mission in your local community?
Well, first of all, to understand our community, demographics are always important. That's a shout out to Charlie. But understanding your demographics, we are 531 square miles, and we only have 14,000 people in those 531 square miles. That's Braxton County. It's huge. There's most of it's rural areas. Everybody gets off at Flatwoods and says, "Oh, there's a lot here." I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's a lot of stop in and get something and go, but there's not a lot of residents here. So, and then Sutton itself is 1,800 people, but that's spread out throughout a large portion of the area, because technically the Flatwoods exit is actually part of Sutton. So that's how big it is. But what we do is, I believe it's the same thing you do in a city. You go out and you find the need, and you address the need. We cast a new vision this year, was reaching West Virginia, reaching Sutton, reaching West Virginia, and reaching the nations reaching the world for the kingdom. But what that looks like is going out and finding what people need. Clothing. We used, when we first started and how we reached the community, a lot of people were in need of clothing. So we had a trailer that we filled up with clothes, and we'd go out to local parking lots and just give away clothes. You find their needs. Food. We're partnering now at working with Mountaineer Food Bank, and they do food distributions. Well, we're going to help them. We don't have the ability to resource the dollars to be able to give people food, but we can be the hands that hand it out without, and we can help that way. We have every year we do food baskets during the Thanksgiving time so that people get what they need. We know there's a lot of programs out there with the state. People can get food, people can get clothes, people can get help with their utilities, but that doesn't replace what we're called to do.
Right.
And we miss it when we start saying, oh, I don't want to be an enabler. That was my biggest problem, and that I had to overcome in this area, was I didn't want to be an enabler. Well, that's not, nowhere in the Bible does that is there an excuse to be an enabler? So you need to address what they need. You need, Jesus said, when you give someone a cup of water, you're giving it to him. It's very basic. We try and complicate it, and we try and look at numbers. Oh, how many people did you reach? That has nothing to do with it. Numbers is not what it's about. It's about being, old cliche, but being the hands and feet of Jesus, being the active role of what people see. And it starts inside the church. Pastors have to talk about how their folks can be impactful outside the walls of the church. Sundays we come together, we worship God. That's what that time is for. But it's also a time to equip the believers, the saints, with how they're supposed to reach people with the gospel during the week. And that's an act of worship as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we teach that, and that's how we impact our area, is, we get people to have the conversation at the gas pump. We get people to see how they can engage people within their context, not just in our context, but, if they're at work, or if they're at a ball game, or if they're, anywhere they're at, how does that conversation happen? And how if they find someone with a need, how do we get them the help and things like that?
That's a good point. Understanding people, I find that if you're not a people person, it's hard to evangelize. If you're not willing to take that moment to have a conversation. I do racetrack ministry from time to time in the spring and summer, and there's hundreds of people coming through a gate. And I'm part of a ministry that's called Red Line Race Ministry at the local dirt track here in Tyler County Motor Speedway. And so we'll do a race ministry where we'll have a program, a brochure about the race itself. And then in that's also the gospel. And so we stop people and we'll talk with people, and you got to be open to do that. You have to have that willingness. If we're not willing to share the gospel with someone, I think we might need to take a moment and think about where our relationship is with Christ. We're called to go and do that. So it can be awkward at first to talk to somebody, especially when you go to something like a race, folks from all kinds of different areas. But if you understand the purpose and why they're going to be there, or if you go to an event and you understand why that person's at that event, you can be able to relate with them, start building rapport, and start learning who they are to share the gospel. And you have those moments, maybe they don't receive the gospel, but you have that moment that you can at least pray with them and you plant that seed. Lots of people before I was saved prayed with me and planted a seed. But eventually that came to fruition, that came to gospel fruit. I ended up getting saved eventually, back February 21st, 2003. So I know those things are important, which is really, as we are on mission, we got to be thinking about context, as you said, because if we don't think about context, understanding our community, again, some of you have been listening the last several weeks, have heard us talk about how important some of our earlier episodes were. Of if we don't understand our community, it's hard for us to be on mission, right?
If we don't understand our community, we're going to try and, almost the buckshot approach, and we're going to just try and shoot it out there and see what sticks. That's kind of pointless and a waste of time. And one of the biggest problems that I see happening, and it's been since I've been in the church, so it's not new by no means, but is the constant, I'll bring them to church and the pastor will save them, or that's the pastor's job. And I think we have to get to a point that we as pastors throw out expectations for our folks to go out and share the gospel. Don't make it, if you feel like it, or, pray that God gives you the opportunity. I understand that concept, and I believe prayer is a lot of what we do before we do this, but I believe God already gives us the opportunities. I would almost say pray that you respond to the opportunities you're given, and to reach people. And that's the basis of missions. And that's the thing is, we try and complicate it. We try and say, I'm going to go on missions and not to be mean, but I'm going to go on missions to Peru. That's a great trip. Don't get me wrong. And we need those things, but that's your main mission is right where you're at. And because you'll come in contact with people I'll never meet. Or if I do meet them, they're not going to listen to me because they don't know me. And West Virginia is a relational state, very much so. And it is different than other states. Other states, it's not quite as relational as West Virginia is. And people have to know you to be able to trust you and have to spend time with you.
I want to share something. Moody once shared this quote about an encounter that he had. It was written down. And he was traveling somewhere one day. Dwayne Moody, you guys go ahead and look him up. A lot of you may already know about him, obviously, but he was traveling, going somewhere one day on a train. And when he was on the train, he saw this young man sitting across from him. He was bubbling over with some excitement about something. And Moody asked him a question. He said, "Young man, why are you so excited? Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to Africa to save the heathen." "Oh, okay, great." And I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. And he said, "Well, young man, how many individuals here have you shared the gospel with?" "Well, none." Then Moody looked at him and said, "Well, son, you're not a missionary. You're a sightseer."
Yeah.
Being able to operate in that context. I look at missions as perpetual. When Jesus says Jerusalem, Samaria, Judea, greater parts of the earth, it's a perpetual. It's ongoing. looking at a holistic view of missions, that it doesn't stop. You've got your local, you've got your national, you've got your international, but it's not just going one and then we did that, and then going to the other, and then we did that, and then going international, we did that. It's ongoing.
Yeah, we do need all those elements. Do not hear me saying don't get involved in international missions, don't get involved in missions even in North Carolina.
Why are we doing it anywhere else if we're not doing it here?
Yeah, is the easiest and most difficult at the same time mission to be part of is right where you're at. It takes no financial resources really to go and share with your neighbor. And I used to think neighbor meant, just people I come in contact with, until God gave me the actual neighbors that I needed to witness to, physical neighbors, and convicted me of some things that I, I can go down to Walmart and share Christ, but my next door neighbors, I don't want to go talk to. That's a problem. So there's a lot of, it's easy, but it's difficult at the same time, because, you're witnessing to people that know you. Because we do live in smaller areas, people know who you are. And when you witness to them, you put that little thought in your head, which usually it's not correct, but they're not going to like me anymore because I witnessed to them. They're dying and going to hell. What matter is it that they like you or don't like you? And you're giving them the ultimate love by sharing with them the gospel. So, but missions is a context. We've kind of taken and put it in a jar and say, okay, it fits in this, but not in this. And we're going to package it to look like this. Missions is not an idea, not a concept. It is just part of who we are. And it's been great and a great learning opportunity for me where I'm at. And then in the state, as we partner with the different associations and work together, I have never seen associations work together as well as the ones in West Virginia are working together right now. And we have some really good director of missions out there, or associational mission strategist, or whatever you want to be called, whatever this week's title is for them. But they're leading their associations and working together, and working not just together in their association, but working with other churches in West Virginia, planting churches in other areas. Not just, we got to take care of our area, but we have churches down on the 64 corridor that are planting churches in Martinsburg, and being part of what's going on where God is doing things. Part of missions is being involved where God is moving. And sometimes it may not be in your backyard. Sometimes it may not even be in West Virginia. It may not even be in the United States. It may be in Peru. The convention has a great partnership with the seminary down in Peru, and we send teams down there, and we have opportunities that way that we can send people to go. And that may be your calling. You may be able to help teach courses, or maybe help with construction, or help with just reaching people in the Peru area with the gospel. And that may be your calling. It's not everybody's either. And that's, sometimes you feel guilty. I'm not going international for missions. And it's like, but are you doing missions where you're at? And the thing is the only time that I would say you have the right to feel guilty about how you do missions is if you don't do missions. And, right. If you're just using the alibi, I'm praying for you, I'm paying for you, and you go. and I think that's a problem, because that's nowhere in Scripture does it say, if you pay enough money, you don't have to go.
Right. One thing as a beauty as Southern Baptists that we have is we are one of the largest, if not the largest, mission sending organization in the world. And the power and the force that we have from our local churches to associations to state conventions to the North American Mission Board, the International Mission Board, and other partnerships that partner with them, because there are also a good host of those partnerships. And next week, we're going to have Brian Underwood, who is the CEO and president of TIP International, which is a partner that works with the IMB. And they do a lot of mission work in Africa, in India, and across Asia, and several other places. So there are opportunities. When you have a local church that's looking for opportunities, look around you. Look around your community. Understand your community. Learn what are those needs. Like what Ed Goodman said, go to your community leaders as well. Being able to go to your community leaders and talk to them to understand what is the greatest need. And then you can develop your missions off of things like that.
Most definitely. And then, people think when they get old, they can't do missions. And that's not correct either. My dad, until I would say till a month before he passed away, was doing international missions from his computer at home. He worked with Global Ministries online, and he reached over 25,000 people with the gospel while sitting at home at his computer. Now, granted, he spent every day, all day, pretty much, but it was a constant for him. He believed missions was very important up till he passed away, and so it was just one of those things that he showed me that there is no alibi. There is no optional, hey, I don't have to do it because I'm too old, or I don't have to do it because I don't have resources or anything like that. There is no option, no way out of doing missions. And nor should you have that desire to be out of missions. The Bible tells us that missions is at the heartbeat of God. He sent his son for us and for everybody around us. And we don't have, if we're not doing missions, we're not in touch with the heartbeat of God, I don't believe. Now, if I'm making people mad too, Chuck, you just go ahead and delete the emails they send you, because I don't, it's one of those things.
Well, hey, I want to hear the honesty. I want to hear those points there, because it's important. If we're not convicted by the Holy Spirit to be on mission, if we're not convicted to be out sharing the gospel, if we're not convicted going to do these things, we need to check our relationship.
Yeah.
We need to check that relationship with Christ.
We're missing something in it.
Yes, we are. Well, we're going to get ready to close up here. Is there anything, final words you want to share with folks?
Well, as the West Virginia Convention of Southern Baptists, I'll put on my Mr. President hat just for a second. We strengthen and send churches to make Jesus known in and through West Virginia. Our whole theme behind our state convention is missions, to make Jesus known in and through West Virginia. You see it on my shirt. If you were at the convention, you might have one in your closet somewhere, but that's what our job is, folks, is to reach out, and each member in each church, each Bible believer, each Christian, their job is to make Jesus known in and through West Virginia. And it is a call to missions, and there is no option.
That's right. There is no option. And I pray that you got something from this conversation today. I like having conversations with guys like Aaron and others to hear what's on their heart when it comes to missions and ministry. And we covered a whole bunch today. So take some time. If you need to go back and listen to a couple of things through here, please do that. Share this, like it, comment, send me a nasty email.
And they can send me a nasty email too. It's pastor.aaron@lrcsutton.org.
There we go. You can send all of your junk mail and all of your hate mail to Aaron. Well, no, hey, brother, I really appreciate our our friendship, the love that you have for Christ as well. I appreciate the time that we had to serve together, the state convention, and as we continue to work together to make Jesus known. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And next week, we'll have Brian Underwood. I'm really looking forward to that as well. You'll get a chance to learn a little bit about international missions from an organization that you might not be too familiar with. So I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to share Brian and who he is, and for him to share about opportunities that there are that your local church can be on mission. Maybe you're thinking of taking an international missions trip. What do you do? Who are the people you want to contact? You've got our state convention, you've got the IMB, you've got our IMB representatives, you've got people like Brian, a whole host. So we'll discuss those things next week. So God bless you. I pray that you have a great day. And again, we seek to serve, supply, and strengthen so that you can reach your community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. God bless you and have a great day. You have been listening to Serve, Supply, Strengthen, a podcast developed to help local churches reach their community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Feel free to like us, share this podcast, download it, leave a comment to let us know what you think. Serve, Supply, Strengthen is a ministry of the Upper Ohio Valley Baptist Association. You can learn more by going to UOVBA.org.